So as promised, I'm here to share my experience with you with my home birth. I had a planned home birth with my twins. I chose to go that route because I knew I did not want to have a surgery again. I'm a VBAC. I had 3 prior C-sections. My first one, he was an emergency, and so therefore I chose to have a C-section 10 years ago, based on what the doctors told me. After that C-section, I had 2 repeat C-section, which they say is protocol, just because I had the one. And I later find out now that I do a lot of research, I later find out that I am going to be looking at this paper that I have here just so I can have my train of thought in place, because I don't want to be all over the place with my story. I chose to have a home birth with my twins because I knew initially that my doctor would oppose it. And I know this because when I was having my daughter 3 years ago and I told him I wanted to have my daughter vaginally, he told me that's not protocol in this area where I live. Okay, and I was new to the area, I don't know much, so I'm like, okay, fine, let's do what I know best. Have the C-section. When I found out I was pregnant with the twins, I'm like, I definitely do not want to have a C-section again. So I know the only way I could have expressed my thoughts and just take control of the whole thing was if I had control and had it in my own environment and stuff of that nature. So I sought me a midwife and I decided to have a water birth at home. The 13th of September, I noticed my mucus plug in the toilet when I used it that morning, and I took a picture and sent it to my doula, and she was like, yep, that's your mucus plug. Any day now. So I'm like, okay, just preparing myself, making sure that everything's in place. After the mucus plug was, I noticed the mucus plug on Sunday morning, like I think it was like late afternoon or something like that. Later on that night, like around 10, I noticed that I felt like trickles of like water running down my leg. I kind of get scared a bit because I was like, oh, I know I went into labor with my first child. I went into labor with him. My water broke and everything, so I knew, and I was having contractions, so I knew I had a little idea about these little things. So I was like, oh, water trickling, that's meaning my water broke. So I called my midwife, who was just literally downstairs in my house because she traveled to us and stayed with us until the twins came. And she examined me and assured me that I was good and everything was good. So therefore, I went to bed that night. My boys, they kind of rubbed me that night, gave me a massage, a foot massage and stuff of that nature. Monday morning, now I got up. I felt like my lower back was feeling a little different. Braxton Hicks, you could tell them apart. You can literally tell them apart because the Braxton Hicks, they come and go, or they were just quick and stuff, and like when I get up and move, they go away. So I could tell that Monday morning when I felt that lower pain in my back, yes, this is something that's coming. I went to virtual clinical and I was online doing what I was doing, and then like the contractions increased. I just felt them coming more, and I'm like, oh, I know what's coming now. I kind of reached out to my professor. Well, they knew I was expecting. So, just in case if I'm not able to make a class or something of that nature, then at least they are aware that that's what it is and I wouldn't be penalized, so to speak. She excused me from class. Not shortly after that, my water broke. Literally gushed out of me and everything. Called my midwife first, which was really weird to me. She was so calm, like really calm. I'm like, here I am, water broke. Okay, what are we gonna do? She's all like,
oh, well, call me in 3 hours.
I'm like, what? But she's the midwife, she's the expert, so I followed along and I said, okay. And not shortly after that, she had told me to call my doula. So I called my doula. My doula's name was Erica, and I'm like, Erica, it's about to happen. And she's like, okay, don't worry, I'm on my way. You know, she's giving me little tips, what to do, a massage, I could go in the bath. So I kind of was just going through it alone until my doula got there, because my midwife was just so nonchalant. I'm like, hello, water broke. Aren't you supposed to be with me? I think I labored alone for about a good 4 to 5 hours. My doula came. She was trying to just work with me with everything. We went for walks. I walked around my block, because she said that walking helps to, get labor going more, and whatever the case may be. I recall I was on the toilet at one point. My midwife, well, not my midwife, it was my doula's. We were laboring together. I was just joking with them. We were just having so much jokes and so much fun. It was just so beautiful. I even recall my doula said to me, are you even in labor right now? It was nothing like how I expected or anything that I envisioned, because mind you, I never really made it too far in my laboring with my other children. I think all that time was now probably 6, after 6, 7. I literally went in bed. I was in the bed taking a nap. My doula was rubbing me down. She was massaging me. She put the essential oil on and stuff like that. We was reading the Bible, and we was praying. It was just a very surreal moment for me. I felt my contractions, but I just breathed through them. I was literally just breathing through them and just keeping calm, and everything was just so beautiful. I even recall it was probably about 10 that night on the 14th. I recall I took a nap. I was so well relaxed. My doulas, they really did their thing. I was so well relaxed, I took a nap for 40 minutes, 45 minutes if I'm not mistaken. And I was just really relaxed. It was so amazing, so amazing, so peaceful. Unheard of, I hear. Every time I tell this story to someone, they're like, wow, that's so unheard of. But yeah, I was just so at peace. My midwives, they came. They basically checked me, and I think I was 8 centimeters dilated. And she was like, okay, let's prepare and everything. So all the stuff, they fixed everything, put the chugs, put the pads, put the papers, the shower linens and all that, so protect my carpet and my sheets and stuff. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm gonna backtrack with this, because I believe when my midwife did come around, when she finally decided to appear, because she's really nonchalant.
Okay, a woman is in labor. Oh well. My job is to catch.
I get it now, I get it, but at the time, in that moment, I'm like, what? You're my midwife? I never done this before. I never had a home birth before. Where are you? Anyways, she kind of checked me, not internally, but on my stomach. I laid down on my belly, this huge belly. I laid on my back, and she kind of took her hand and felt. And she's like, oh, this feels like a head. And then she's like, oh, that's the butt. She did it to the other side as well, to my right side. And she goes, well, this one, and she pointed and she said, this one on the left is breached, and she's gonna come first. And I'm like, what? How do you know this? What are you saying? So therefore, my birth plan that I initially had my pool up and everything. My birth pool was up in the living room, ready to put some water in and everything. Suddenly, that was not gonna happen, because it's breach, and she don't do that in the water. It's just best not to do it in the water. So suddenly I felt panicky, because I'm like, okay, all my research I did, all these women who've done this before said that the water helped with the contractions and with the pain and all this. So I'm like, oh my, panicky, and I'm like, oh, so I just quickly sent up a word of prayer and just, basically left it in the Most High's hand. Anyway, so I'll go back to the part where we are prepping for the birth of the first twin. I believe it was 11, where we just kind of like basically just got everything going. Around 1, couple minutes to 2, I believe that's when I started feeling the urge to push. So I was on my bed, knee up, all that. Everyone's all in my business. 4 to 5 hours of pushing. My daughter was just like really like not stuck, but she just was so stubborn and wouldn't come out, and just her feet came out. She was footling breached. So footling presentation, her feet came out and just like kind of just plopped right outside of my vagina, and wouldn't move from there, wouldn't budge. With all the pushing that I was doing, she wouldn't come out. All because her hand was literally like this inside, like literally just hanging out there. Eventually she came out on this last big push, and she came out, and I held her, and it was so surreal to me. It was like the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I mean, I have 3 children prior, but this birth, this labor, this everything that went on with this one particular baby, it was so surreal to me. It was so amazing. It was so well spent. I never had any regrets about it. I knew I made the right choice in doing that. I'm there hanging out, baby on me, doing skin to skin, getting the baby acquainted with me, you know, put the baby on breast, having the baby just interact with me, skin to skin. Daddy came in. Daddy was not a part of none of this. Daddy did not want to be a part of it. He wants no part of it, he told me, because initially when I decided to do this, I had consulted with him, see what he wanted, you know, if that was something that he wanted me to do. And after I made my case to him, he agreed, and he gave me his blessing, and I went forth and I did my preparation and found the midwife and all that. So he didn't want no parts of it. He came in afterwards. You know, I actually recall hearing the stereo, the surround sound. I recall hearing it go up a little more, like a few notches, when I was actually pushing Janelle, my firstborn twin. When I was pushing her out, I actually heard the surround sound turn up more, because he just didn't want to hear it. Anyway, so he came, he took her, and, you know, he got his time with her and did all that. And I noticed, like, okay, so when is the next baby coming out? Like, you know, what's going on? My midwife did a check. My second child didn't want to come out yet. Might I just say to you that the time that she came out, my first child, the twin, was, I believe, like a couple minutes to 7, like probably 7 minutes to 7, like 6:53 or something like that in the morning. So September 15th, 6:53 was when she came out. An hour passed, no second baby. My midwife checked me, everything was going good. She said everything looks good, and 2 hours passed. Heartbeat is there, strong as ever, everything is good. And I'm like, okay, I guess she's not ready. I recall we fell asleep and everything. Everybody was knocked out because we were so exhausted. I was so exhausted. We knocked out, we took a nap, and I think I fell out like around 8:39. My husband made me something to eat, some breakfast, and, you know, I ate, and then I think we woke up like 1 something in the afternoon. Still no baby. I was not in contraction. I was not contracting. Nothing was going on. There was no activity whatsoever. I'm getting acquainted with the baby, doing skin to skin, just feeding the baby, you know, loving on the baby. At this point, the kids were introduced to the baby from like earlier in the afternoon, but I was just so exhausted and out of it. Daddy did all of that. So when I was rested and I was able to be a part of it, I kind of walked out to my living room and, you know, sat with them and just seeing the joy in their faces and stuff. It was just amazing to see, because we kept that we were having twins from them. So when they found out that, like literally at home, when it all was going on, they were so elated and so shocked. So it was just amazing to see that. Anyways, at this point, I believe it was literally 12 hours that passed. And so my midwife kind of gave me options. She was like, hey, you can have the baby here, or we could go to the hospital. And I'm like, no, let's trust the process, because this is my body. If my baby's not ready to come at this moment, let's trust the process, you know. My husband had made dinner too, so we ate. We was like praying and, you know, reading the Bible. We was just like trying to stay in the spirit and just, you know, be filled with the Holy Spirit, just so he could guide, you know, so she could guide us, so she could show us the way that we need to go, and, you know, whatever the case may be. I don't recall the time, truth be told, but I believe around 15 hours. My midwife said to me, like, after she did a check at this point, and she's like, yeah, her bag is not broke. Her sac, the membrane is not ruptured. So she's literally intact. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, is this even possible? At this point, I'm like, I don't know, because I never pushed the baby out before until that day. So I'm like, I don't know, is this normal? She told me of cases that where babies were, you know, a couple hours later and they were born. And she said to me, like, okay, I could rupture your membrane for you, or we could finish this experience in the hospital. I personally did not want to go to the hospital. In my mind and in my thinking at that time, I'm like, am I going to go to the hospital and they opt to still cut me? Or were they gonna allow me to finish out what I've started? I just say to myself, no. I wanna stay home and trust the process. So I'm doing this at home. So after I told her, like, hey, let's just rupture the membrane at home. She said, I have to warn you though, once I rupture your membrane, you're gonna have back-to-back contractions. I heard this, but I didn't hear it. Oh, when she ruptured my membrane, it was so quick, like, it was like literally a couple seconds. Whoop, whoop, like in my back, in my lower back. Whoop, whoop, whoop. They just kept coming back to back up. I sat on the toilet, nothing. I crawled on the floor, nothing. I called from my mom, nothing helped me. I went into the shower, turned the hot water on, nothing helped those contractions. My doula, I recall my doula was trying to tell me I'm a warrior mama, I got this, I'm strong. I'm like, I don't feel so strong. This is bad. I was just losing it. That lasted for like a good 25 to 30 minutes. And then my midwife said it was time. So, you know, she started doing her thing or whatever. She, you know, getting the stuff ready. And I went on the bed and felt like it was pushing forever. At this point, I was really exhausted. 4 hours later, Jayla came, and that was like 4:50 in the morning, I believe. It was like around 4:53 or 4 something. It was 4:50 or something like that. But eventually, 21 hours later, she came. Midway, my midwife noticed that I was giving up. She realized like I was running out of my steam, because at one point, I recall saying I can't do this anymore, and she kind of said that whenever women say I can't do this anymore, that means the end is close. So she kind of like, we could go to the hospital and you could finish this, and try to use that not to scare me, but because she knew I didn't want to go to the hospital, she kind of like said it to make me get back into, you know, get back focused. And it did get me back in focus, because when she said that, I'm like, no, I want to do this. I need to be here. I need to finish out what I started. I've trusted my body so far. I just want to see this all the way to the very end. When we talked initially, I told her only when it's absolutely necessary for me to be transported out that I would want to do that. Because she knew my wishes, she kind of used it to like whip me back in shape. Like, no, this is what you want. You remember you want this. Probably like 10 minutes after that, my midwife said to my doulas, like, to kind of give me an encouragement. I noticed that's what it was, to like kind of encourage me. Like, hey, I see hair. And they're like, oh girl, you're almost there. You got this, mama. You strong. You can do this. The head came out. It was so surreal. It was so surreal, because the head came out and my midwife just kind of said to me like, Janelle, you can stop pushing now. And I mean, I didn't hear her at that point, because I was just still in the moment. Like, I'm like, pushing, and she's like, Janelle, and they try to stop me, and she's like, you can stop, look down. And I look down in between my legs, and here goes this head out of my vagina. It was just so surreal to me, because 21 hours before, it was a foot coming out, you know what I mean? And now it's a head. After I saw the head, she was like, meet your baby. And I kind of caught my baby, like after the head came out. The head was out, I looked down, and I kind of like reached down, took the head out, and like kind of put the baby on my chest like this. That is all I recall doing, because not shortly after that, I was passed out, like literally. I was so exhausted. Not medical, nothing medical happened or anything. I was just so exhausted from all of that ordeal that I was just like, okay, I just need to close my eyes for 2 seconds. I literally went through 2 labors. It was just a long day. That was it. Like basically she came out and she was on me for a good couple minutes while the midwife did what she was doing, and you know, kind of I did both delayed clamping and the cord. I didn't cut the cord. I didn't want that right away. I let the blood just run off, and you know, I just wanted all the blood inside the baby just to make sure my babies are not anemic. It was just so surreal. I enjoyed it. I had 2 different type of labors. I had a very peaceful first time ever having a vaginal birth, and it was so peaceful. It was so amazing. It was so enjoyable. And then my second labor was just like, it was beautiful. It was beautiful as well. But then the contractions got me so. It was, yeah. I don't want to relive that. I would do it again if I wanted more kids, but I think I'm at a total of 5 now. I don't think I want any more children. If it's the will of the Most High that I have children again, then that's what's gonna happen. But I do not. You should hear my daily prayers. Like I literally pray for mercy on my womb because I don't want no more kids. And my children, my boys, my oldest boys, they want another brother, and they were, they always telling me this, like, oh, I wish that, the twins were a boy and girl, so they can have their brother. But oh well. I just wanted to share my story with you guys. I hope that inspired another woman. Maybe you had C-sections and you've been told, like I've been told, that you can't have a vaginal birth. But I'm here to tell you that it's quite possible. I did it. My twins, they're actually 4 months today. Well, the first one is 4 months today, and then the second one will be 4 months officially, I should say, because I don't really care about the dates and stuff. But officially, the date, they'll be 4 months. The second one will be 4 months tomorrow, and so therefore, they're thriving. Whatever you do, make sure you're guided by the Holy Spirit. If you believe in God, whatever you believe in, just pray and ask for guidance so you can know if what you're trying to do is the right thing. I noticed, like, women of color is concerned, Black mortality rate is so high, and I mean, not only did COVID play a factor in my decision, and on top of me not wanting to have another C-section, it was just so much things that I've learned on my research and stuff like that that just made me like, nope. I want to be home in the comfort of my own home. I want to be in my own bed. I want to deal with my, stuff like that. So I enjoyed my birth. It was so amazing. It was so surreal to me. I go in my room and I relive the day every day. Like I relive that moment every day. Talk to my husband. I'm like, I can't believe I did that. Like I pushed 2 babies out. It was just a great team that I had that I was able to get through that. And I just, give all thanks and glory and honor to the Most High, because He allowed me to not be as nervous, and he allowed me to like kind of just held my faith and just continue to trust the process. Just to make sure you're tuned in to this channel to see if I post anything else, just subscribe and like. And if you don't like it, you can also dislike it. It don't matter to me. I just wanted a place to share my birth story because I was really getting so tired of sharing the same story over and over and over and over and over again. It was so draining. So, thank you for listening and have a good one. Bye.